Well, I'm going to share a few more thoughts that I have about the murder of the Reiners, the murder of Mr. and Mrs. Reiner, allegedly by their son Nick, uh, and that is this, and this is something I don't think anybody else has said anywhere, but it's another thing that strikes me as strange um, about this case, which is Nick Reiner. You know, for all of his, uh, obviously he didn't live an exemplary life, and he took a lot of illicit drugs. He stole money to buy illicit drugs. These are among the things that he's admitted to doing. He stole money from his parents, or I don't know, probably manipulated his friends into giving him their money, whatever. You know, he did all kinds of stuff to feed his drug habit. Um, but there's nothing in his record that suggests that any propensity to violence at all. Nothing. And uh, normally somebody doesn't live to be 32 and commit um, just a heinous crime, a heinously violent crime like this one, cutting the throats of your parents in bed, uh, without there being some kind of precedent, some kind of uh, uh, violent precedent. You know, something like where he hauls off and attacks somebody here or there. But I haven't seen um, any evidence of that. I haven't heard any evidence of that. You know, out of and I've ever since I heard about this case, I've been obsessed. I've been scouring the internet. You know, I found what I could find. The only times that Nick has appeared, Nick, I'm not on a first name basis with this guy. You know, uh, that uh, that that Nick Reiner uh, has uh, gone public and talked about his issues are, well, first of all, during the making of the movie, being Charlie, which there are videos of these uncomfortable videos of him sitting with his father, and just looking very uncomfortable. His father talking way more than he needs to be. Him, sort of being in the spotlight against his will, more or less, but just um yeah. So there's those interviews, and then there's also the Dopey podcast where he appeared, which was a podcast that's by um, these. It was the hosts are two guys who were addicts, recovering addicts, and they talked about they had people on, and sometimes they were famous or semi-famous, who also had struggles with addiction, and they shared sometimes amusing, sometimes harrowing, sometimes both stories. That seems to be the whole point of the show. And at some point along the way on this podcast, one of the two hosts of the Dopey podcast, relapsed and overdosed and died. Um, but Nick, I'll just call him Nick. I guess you know, I don't. I'm not. That's not me assuming any false uh, intimacy. But Nick was on that show twice, or actually three times, and and both of the times, or all three of the times he was on the show, the third time was the most awkward and the most uncomfortable of all three. Uh, and You can find them talking about it, or the surviving member of the podcast talking about it in uh, on this YouTube video that I saw the other day, which I'll link below. Uh, but anyway, in all of those podcasts, he never talks about committing violence, and nobody else has said he ever was violent with anyone. Um, so to go from no violence to being 32 years old, he there were times when he was where he threw a fit. Where he talks about his when his parents he was staying in a guest house and his parents wanted him to leave because he kept stealing their money and buying drugs and stuff, and he was in this meth induced fit. How he just wrecked the guest house and knocked everything over and stuff like that. No violence against people, none. Um, so it's just it's anomalous to go from no violence to the most extreme kind of violence where you're cutting people's throats as they lie in their beds, and those people happen to be your parents. I mean, that's that's an extreme switch, and it implies a couple of things, of course. Uh, a couple of possibilities. One of which is that he didn't do it, that somebody else did it, and for some reason he's taking the fall. But 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 the other one is that he was angry with them and was taking out his anger, through planned, precise, uh, execution style violence, i.e., the cutting of their throats. So that's unusual, is it not? Like with somebody called with somebody like OJ, uh, if he did it, which I've read, I've actually read a book now, which makes me think that maybe there was somebody else who could possibly have done it besides OJ. Uh, and I'm not going to go into detail about that here, but if you've encountered it, then you've encountered it. Uh, if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. Somebody else who had the means and the motive, and or much more of a motive, and who had a propensity for a skill with knives that OJ did not have. But anyway, that's getting far afield. But we stick with let's stick with explanation that OJ did it. Well, there were plenty of times OJ was violent before that, plenty of times. Um, but Nick, I keep wanting to call him Nick Jonas. I say Nick, and then I try to remember his last name. Uh, there were no times that Nick Reiner was. So, what do we make of that? And why isn't anybody talking about that?